Hello, I'm Master Misty Elder with Legacy Taekwondo, and in this video we're going to address some things about practicing in small spaces. So we are coming into week 6 of digital Taekwondo, which is basically everything that we've been doing up to this point has been involving our students practicing at home. Now, some of the benefits that you experience by practicing in a dojang are larger spaces with no obstacles, so you have plenty of room to move around without having to adjust your position, as well as mirrors, typically large mirrors, so you can see your full body on multiple walls. So it makes it easy to evaluate your own techniques when you're watching yourself practice, so that you can make sure that you're doing things correctly. So how do we take some of those benefits and translate them into a really small space? And the flip side of that is how, when we practice in small spaces, do we avoid creating bad habits that we have to then unlearn when we do have the opportunity to get back into our typical dojang. So with that in mind, we're going to be addressing muscle memory as well as how to feel the correct technique. Both are extremely important as martial artists because no matter what character developments come from being involved in martial arts is still just that, a martial arts, a military art, which means that anything that you practice, you want to become muscle memory so that when you need to use it, it's automatic. You don't have to think about how to do it. You don't have to think about where to put your hands, where to put your feet in order to execute the techniques correctly. So we want to develop good muscle memory, and we want to be able to feel when we're doing the correct technique without having to have a tool like a mirror to evaluate what we're doing. So first thing we're going to discuss is turning. This is especially important in your forms practice. I'm starting to see students, when they have the opportunity to be in a larger space where they don't have to adjust for furniture or other areas of small small spaces to train in, I'm starting to see some footwork that has become muscle memory that you don't want to become muscle memory. For example, I'm going to move my mirror out of the way here for a moment. We'll be utilizing that in a second. So I've got a small space here. I mean, I can almost touch the bed and the door at the same time. So if I were going to practice a form, I would need to probably adjust so that I don't go through the door with a front stance. But where do you make that adjustment? Do I block, step, punch, and then adjust my feet, block, step, punch? Okay, that could work, but what you've just taught yourself to do is to do some extra footwork before you turn the other direction, which you don't want to become a habit. So what I advise is trying as best as you are able to execute your turns before you adjust for distance. Here's what I mean. We're starting the beginning of Taeguk Ijong, so it's going to be a walking stance and then a front stance. I clearly do not have enough space to go front stance this direction, but I can in this direction. So I turn, walking stance, low block, front stance, punch. Now I don't want to develop a bad habit with my footwork here, so I'm going to turn into my walking stance, low block before I go towards the door or go through the door. I would step back and then do my front stance punch, okay? Because when you are given the opportunity to do those movements in a larger space, you are going to be less likely to turn this way and then go, oh, I have tons of room to go forward, but I'm going to back up anyways, right? However, if you have developed a habit where you switch your feet in order to turn, that is part of your muscle memory, and you may be likely to incorporate that footwork change before your turn, even when you have the space to turn without it. So, like I said, do your best to execute your turns before you account for space. One more time, I step, front stance, I execute my turn, then I give myself the space that I need to do the front stance. And if I had limited space going this way, I would execute the turn and then back up in order to give myself space to move forward. So that's the first thing I wanted to address in regards to turning in your footwork, especially when practicing for your forms. Second thing that I would like to address when practicing your kicks, take the opportunity to utilize some of the footwork that you know how to do in order to create space while you're practicing kicks at home. For example, we know how to step, we know how to skip, we know how to slide, and we know how to spin. So if I am doing front kicks in my room, all right, so again, I don't have a lot of space going this way. Front kick 1, front kick 2, slide back. Front kick 1, front kick 2, slide back. Or front kick 1, slide back, front kick 2, skip back, front kick 3, skip back, front kick 4, step back, okay? So utilizing the footwork in order to create space allows you not only to practice your footwork in a way that might be more realistic for using it when you get back into sparring or one steps, but it also allows you to practice executing your techniques correctly in a small area. All right, the third thing that I want to address is how do we know that we're doing techniques correctly if we don't have the mirrors to train in front of? So from an upper body point of view, I am going to bring out my, my standing mirror for a moment. Now, I did touch on a video previously that involved these techniques, but I think I only posted to Facebook, so I'm bringing that material in to this video because I think it's important to have it all together. So what I had addressed previously was feeling the correct technique and using very little space in order to evaluate your techniques. For example, if you have a bedroom mirror or a bathroom mirror, you should be able to practice just about every upper body technique that you need to know how to do without ever hitting the mirror. So we're going to pretend that this is my bedroom or bathroom mirror, and as in most bathrooms especially, you're not going to have a lot of room to do front stances or other deep footwork. So I'm going to take a knee because we're going to assume that I'm not moving forward at all. I'm an arm's distance away from the mirror, so I'm not going to hit it. And from here, I can practice body punch, head punch, upper block, middle block, lower block, neck strike. I can even be creative in doing outside blocks. So I can utilize my mirror without moving my lower body in order to evaluate whether I'm doing my chamber and my blocking or striking techniques correctly to the correct place. Is my hands placed appropriately for my chamber? Am I executing the proper alignment for the upper block? Both hand up as well as rechambered arm. So I can see that in the mirror. But how do I then use that in my living room or my garage where I have more space to move around, but I can't see what I'm doing? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, say we're focusing on middle punch. I'm going to punch to the middle. I'm going to punch to the middle again. I'm going to close my eyes and punch to the middle again. Open them. Is my fist in the right spot? If not, adjust and then close my eyes again and feel where my arm is. Now I'm going to punch with the other hand. Am I in the right spot? Yes, okay? So what you're starting to do is you're using your other senses to evaluate whether you're executing a technique correctly. You're letting your muscles give your brain the feedback of where your arms or legs are, depending on the technique that you're doing, and if you've done that technique correctly, okay? And that's how, when you practice on your own in a space like a living room or a garage where you may not have mirrors, you can still evaluate whether you're doing your techniques correctly because you'll know if they feel correct. So that's one of the tools that you can use, is utilizing your mirror to evaluate your techniques, and closing your eyes when you practice them so that you can actually feel if they're right, and then open your eyes and check and see. All right, so it's almost like a little mini test. So that's one of the tools that you can use for your upper body techniques. And then the last thing I'll just touch on briefly is that to practice your stances, you don't need a lot of space either. If you've got enough room to execute one front stance, you have enough room to execute any stance that you could possibly have to do in Taekwondo. Your front stance is 4.5 of your own feet long, which means that it's the biggest stance you're going to do. It's no wider than your hips. We'll do a whole nother video on stances, so I'm not going to get more technical than that. But every other stance falls within your front stance. So if I've got room to go this way for my front stance, I have room to stand this way for my horseback stance, and my back stance, and my walking stance, and my left stance, and my right stance. So any other stance I could possibly want to do is going to fit within my front stance, which means that as long as I have room for one front stance, I can repeat any stance with any foot in front that I want and just switch back and forth from one foot to the other. And again, just like repeating your techniques in the mirror, repeating your footwork over and over again allows your body to develop the muscle memory to feel when you're doing the techniques correctly, so that then when you are practicing in a space where you've got room to move around and you're focusing on a greater combination of techniques like a form or footwork for one-steps or something of that nature, you are able to do your techniques correctly without having the larger tools that we utilize at the Taekwondo Center in order to evaluate your progress. Thank you very much for watching. If you have further questions about stances or techniques, look for our other videos or follow up with your instructor. Have a great day.